Hello and Happy New Year. I'm Mac Grobar, and welcome back to Comedy Means Business. How does one go from nursing to becoming one of the world's leading touring comedians? That's not a hypothetical, but rather the story of Nurse John, the performer born as John de la Cruz, who made our list of the comics who won 2025. In just around 5 years, John has gone from working hospital shifts to selling out theaters around the world, turning observational humor surrounding his time in healthcare into a soaring stand-up business. While Nurse John began posting comedic content on social during the COVID pandemic, simply as a means of coping with life on the front line, what he started there quickly turned into something that he never could have expected. In the last year and a half, Nurse John has sold over 200,000 tickets on the road, boosting his global audience on social media to 17 million plus. One of comedy's preeminent creators, he also notably brought in more than 1.3 billion views on Instagram, along with 1.2 billion on TikTok in the last year. Today on the podcast, Nurse John unpacks how he got here and where he's looking to take things, joined by his manager, Logan Watkins of Select Management Group, who has played a key role in his rise. Nurse John and Logan Watkins, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so could you set up a little bit about you for people who might not know you? I don't know how many people out there don't know you because you're just all over the place right now, but could you talk a little bit about just maybe first how you came to nursing? I'm curious about the journey.
I think, first of all, my name is John de la Cruz. Before Nurse John, nursing came into reality for me. One of my jokes actually is that because I'm Filipino, and a lot of Filipinos are nurses or either doctors. And really for me though, why I became a nurse is because of my grandpa who had Alzheimer's disease. And I really wanted to do something as a profession where I can give back to other families because I wasn't able to give that to my grandpa. Mm-hmm. So that's how the nursing came into my life.
And were you someone who was always like really big into comedy from growing up?
I think so. I mean, I've always been the family clown at home where I just make everyone laugh every single dinner time or when we have family gatherings. I'm the one being thrown in the middle and just be like, hey, make everybody laugh or say something funny.
Sure. Okay, so from early on. And then it seemed like this started for you in the digital space, right? And that started in the pandemic. Was that like sort of around the first time when you were nursing? Like you were that was the start.
That was actually the start when
on the front line is
on the
great
front
way
line
to start nursing.
Exactly. So I graduated nursing. The end of my graduation was the first day of COVID, mm-hmm. and was also my first day as a nurse training.
Yeah.
And it was a tough time, honestly, because I was navigating on this profession that I used to be guided by someone like a teacher or a preceptor. And then now I'm like, wait, I'm going to be the only person responsible with people's lives. And I don't know if I can do this. And so I had that struggle plus COVID, which was so unpredictable that time because we didn't really know what's going on. Is it a pandemic? Is it a virus? Like
right?
Where are we? And the same time COVID happened, I became a nurse and TikTok was getting popular at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's where social media came into play.
And so what was the impulse to get on there and start posting content using your sort of background?
There's really, I've always loved social media growing up. I've been kind of like a techie kind of kid growing up. And so social media was my way of just getting out of overstimulation from my environment and just focusing and then scrolling. And so TikTok was just something I wanted to have with me to just kind of like disengage from what's happening in the hospital because it's a lot. It can get really a lot emotionally, physically. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. And so TikTok was kind of like my avenue to de-stress. And I was never really planning to start posting or become an influencer or creator. It was just so happened that one time I was on my break time as a nurse and I decided to film myself having a mental breakdown in my locker room in a hospital after my 4th shift, and for some reason I butt dial posted that video, and the next day it just went viral, and I was like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean viral?
Yeah.
They're like, you're all over the news, you have to see yourself in social media, people are posting you. I'm like, what's going on? And that's kind of like the start.
So, like, can you talk? What was that first post that blew
It
up?
was me having a mental breakdown in the locker room in the hospital because I was working a night shift. And it was a really tough time for me. Again, I'm navigating through this new profession that I just graduated from, and it was a tough time too during school. And so I feel myself having a mental breakdown, stitching this guy, asking, can you name me a profession that is undervalued, underappreciated, and underpaid? And so I just put my phone down, press record, and stand up in front of the camera and showed me crying. And the next thing I know, I butt dial posted that video, and it went viral the next day.
How did you process that?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a very private person. I used to be a very private person because I'm very introverted, and so seeing myself everywhere in social media made me feel a little embarrassed. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Why is my face spreading around social media? But then I look at the comment section. It's just a lot of positive comments from people. They're like, oh my God, I've had the same exact moments during my shifts in the hospital, or working in McDonald's, or working in different places as a customer service, worker. And that kind of just made me feel so much better.
And then, Logan, how did you discover John's work?
Yeah, I actually got referred John by one of my other clients who I signed in 2020. She was doing healthcare, but vlogs as a mom. And I'd been working with her for about 3 years. And she came to me and she's like, hey, my friend, Nurse John, he's looking for a manager. Would you be interested in taking a meeting? And I was like, yes, I love his content. He's hilarious. So we got on the phone. He was living in Canada at that time. So we were on Zoom and we just hit it off. We talked for like 2 hours and we were both like, hey, let's do this. And we started working together. That was, I think, summer of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to back up for a minute more, like, where did you take things like after that initial viral video? Like, did you just keep posting and just kind of see where things go? Like, what was the thinking from there?
I kind of deleted the app because I got so embarrassed. I'm like, you know what? I am deleting all my social media. I don't want to be known by everybody and anybody. And so for 6 months, I just stopped and focused on working and really just like hone myself into this new job. And after 6 months, I was like, listen, I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling like this is getting to me because I love this profession, but the hardship and the things that we go through behind the curtain in the hospital is just way too much. And so I was like, you know what? I need an avenue to de-stress. And so I re-downloaded TikTok. And the second video I posted after 6 months is something I intentionally posted of me making fun of myself. And then the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth just all went viral. And I was like, listen, it looks like people find me funny.
It's like an accomplishment to like go viral again after you shut it down purposefully. Like
exactly.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so I guess, were there any other creators consciously or unconsciously who sort of influenced you early on in what you were doing?
Not really, because I was really just watching everyone on TikTok, because TikTok used to be such a different platform. It used to be just people dancing and lip syncing, and so there wasn't really someone like I idolize or look up to. And so for me, my whole goal was just really putting in something that I've always dreamed of, sketch comedy. And I was like, you know what, maybe I can do like some sketch comedy or act out or just show who I am as a person in social media, because people are loving this. So why don't I just translate who I am in person to online? And it seems like it did work.
Yeah. So was it was intuitive as a process to figure out what your voice was and like how to manifest that in terms of the content you were creating?
I think so. I think for me, it's a lot of like mixing trauma, dark humor, the stories in the hospital, my own personal experiences, and kind of blending them in and showing what's real and truth. Because during those times, I think nurses and healthcare workers were so glorified in a way that's like, they're superheroes, forgetting that we're also human beings who have emotions, physical health, families, loved ones who cares about us, and most of all, that we are also human beings like everyone else who can feel exactly like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Let me mix in comedy and truth and bring in that to people around the world and just make them laugh, but at the same time make them realize that this is funny, but at the same time it's actually true. Like there's a truth to it.
Were you ever worried it would get you in trouble at your day job?
Yes, every single time I make videos, it's just, to me, I was like, listen, when am I gonna be called by HR for the next video I'm making about the truth about what's going on in healthcare?
Okay.
It is.
And so what was the moment where you decided I'm going to lean in full on into this?
Really, it took a lot of time from me. It took almost 3 years for me to say like, hey, let me just keep doing this and maybe I can do podcasts and then YouTube channel. So it's really sourcing out myself and kind of like walk in the blind kind of situation where I need to feel like this is going to be fruitful for me to even continue doing, because social media is so unpredictable. I cannot just rely to it. And at the same time, I've went through so much in nursing school that it was hard for me to let go of something that I love doing, which is nursing.
Right.
And so after 3 years and deciding to get a manager and things are getting more, extensively crazier in a way where like brand deals are coming and conferences, you want to be a speaker, you want to do this. And I'm like, listen, this is a lot. I want to be able to do them. I want to serve people outside of the phone screen and more into real life. So let me see what this will, give me and where it's going to take me. And so I took the leap of faith of trusting myself and social media.
What did your family think when they found out that what you were gonna be leaning into, I guess, professionally?
They were super supportive.
Okay, that's nice.
They're like, wow, we never had a celebrity in our family. You are the first, and you are taking us into different status now. And so I'm like, you know what? Thank you guys. I love the support.
So what phase of the evolution did you come along at?
The beginning. Yeah, I remember I was in my parents' living room. I was visiting them, and John called me and he was like, I think I want to take my podcast on the road and do a podcast tour. And I was like, okay. And Avi Wasserman at CAA had just been in my office and we were chatting, and I emailed him and I'm like, hey, remember Nurse John, the guy I was telling you about? He's super funny, all over TikTok. He wants to take his podcast on the road. Is that something CAA is interested in? So we set up a meeting, chatted with a few different touring agents, took a lunch, and our agents, who are still our agents now over at CAA, they were like, hey, you're so funny. Don't do a podcast tour, do a stand-up tour. And he was like, I've never been on stage before. And they're like, it will work. So they sent him to the Brea Improv. He did 5 minutes on another show. He came out and the crowd went insane. I mean, the improv was shaking. The improv people were like, this is insane. We've never heard it so loud in here. We need him to come back. So we did a few test comedy shows. It was insane. And then they were like, we need to go on a tour. So from the very beginning.
Well, where in relation to him starting in just the digital space?
I mean, I guess he had went viral early on. It'd been a few years, and we started working together in summer of 2023. So probably like 2 years as he was building online, and he had been doing some brands on his own, and he was getting super busy. So it was time to bring on a manager.
I mean, you mentioned obviously he's funny. That would be the foundational quality. But like, what did you see in him early on that made you think, wow, there's really something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something he was doing that no one else was doing, right? He was giving space for healthcare workers to feel seen and feel related to. And my sister's a nurse and my brother-in-law is a doctor. And I see, how hard they work and everything they go through. And I thought it was a really interesting niche. And I was like, he's holding space for these people to feel seen and heard. And I loved that. And he was going viral. The numbers were crazy. And he was also, when we met, just someone who had so many dreams and a hard worker. And I was like, this guy has something special about him.
Weirdly enough, there are now like at least a handful of people in with healthcare background who are comics. Like, why do you think that's happening? Isn't that a crazy kind of phenomenon?
It is. And I think like it's so fun because we can all give different perspective and different stories and personal experiences to everyone. And I think that is such an amazing thing. And it makes me so excited for everyone to be able to do that too. Because honestly, I think a lot of healthcare workers just needs to feel related to someone and feels a need that they have someone that represents them. Right. So the more of us goes out there and bring in comedy, therapy, and all of this makes us even feel more of our, what our worth is.
Do you know the others?
Yes, absolutely. Stephen Ho, we have Carson White, Anna the nurse, all these amazing nurses who are now transitioning and doing their stuff on stage.
Yeah.
It's just making it such an amazing thing for everybody because there's labor and delivery, there's ICU nurses, there's different aspects and specialty of nurses that I cannot touch myself because I am only specialized in one place. And so having that perspective from other people gives other people who's in that space the ability to feel seen.
Sure. So do you want to talk a bit more about like the early process as far as taking the digital presence and making it into something more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think the digital to traditional pipeline is something we're seeing a lot now. I think we're actually also seeing a traditional to digital pipeline, right? Where a lot of these traditional stars are now needing to get on TikTok to be able to sustain business, which I think is a very interesting flip, right? I think early on it was like every digital person was like, I need to be a TV star. I need to be on stage. And now that is normal. I mean, that's kind of how the flow goes, right? And the next step in the evolution of a digital talent. And I think for John, again, early on, he wanted to take the podcast on the road. The agents were like, you are super funny. Let's get you on stage. And I think you always have to maintain that digital strategy as well. You can't just throw that out the door once you start the traditional pipeline. And so I think for us, the strategy was really continue to post online, do your sketch comedy online. And that was selling out the shows really easily. But I think once we started also posting stand-up clips online, that helped grow him in that space of people who maybe aren't even in healthcare, but just love going to stand-up shows, right? Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting.
Could you talk just a little bit about your background as far as how you come to this intersection of comedy, the creator economy and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career working in production, actually. And I was working for a YouTuber. I was her producer and editor. And I met her manager through that process, of course. And I was really interested in what he was doing. I was like, you're doing the brand deals, you're doing the negotiations, but you're also really heavily involved in the creative. And you are essentially a producer as well on her team. And I went over, started working for him, and he really taught me the ropes of working with talent. Went to another agency from there. And at that agency is when TikTok started blowing up. And we were like, okay, we're going to sign TikTokers, right? And like John said, in the beginning, it was a lot of trends and dancing, and there really wasn't any strategy. It was like post whatever you want. Brands were throwing money at whatever it was, and everyone was going viral. And then from there, just continued working with digital talent and trying to help them really move into that pipeline of going traditional, right? And so when I met John and we started doing the tour, it was really interesting because that was the first stand-up tour that I had worked on. And I really got thrown into the wolves there and learned a lot. And, lucky luckily, he's so great and we have such a great working relationship. And, we really started together of like, we don't know what we're doing, but we built a really great team around us, right? So bringing our agents on at CAA, they taught me so much. Leaning on the Live Nation team, shout out to Stephen Mann, the head of marketing at Live Nation. He helped me so much. And I think, for me, again, it was my first tour that I worked on, and I really learned a lot, and just grateful to be able to be alongside John.
For you, were the non-healthcare people always there from the beginning? Or was that something you had to cultivate? I imagine there's a lot of those people around the fans who are in the healthcare space, but like, could you talk about that side of it?
I think the non-healthcare audience came into play because of the healthcare audience. They're right. Listen, you have no idea how hard my life is. Let me bring you to this. Let me show you this video of Nurse John. Let me introduce you to this person who's showing something that I've been explaining to you, but you're still not getting it. So let me bring you to him. And then I think non-healthcare people start relating to it because they're like, listen, his comedy, at least this is how they explain it to me, is like, your comedy isn't just healthcare. It's so universal because we have all dealt with people in customer service. We've worked in customer service in our teenage years and their early 20s, and really it's just a universal experience for everybody, and you don't have to be in healthcare. But one thing I realized too is that every single people is connected to someone who's in healthcare, or you have experience being in the hospital. And that gives you that relatability to this content that you might not have as much as we do, but that experience that you've had in the hospital or being with someone or related to someone who's in healthcare makes you feel like I can relate to this.
I also think it's the digital strategy that we've adopted as well. So something for John, he is an amazing chef. And so I told him, I'm like, you should start posting cooking for your wife online because he's making these amazing recipes every single day. And so he started posting a little bit more lifestyle content as well and adding his humor into that and his quirks. And I think that also gained another audience of people outside of just healthcare because they're like, wait, we love this guy. We think he's generally hilarious. Yes, he's doing, stand-up comedy in the healthcare space, but we're just a Nurse John fan, so we want to come see him live. Yeah. And I think that helped, really garner a different audience as well outside of healthcare.
Agreed.
And so were there nerves for you at all in suddenly taking this into the live space?
I mean, I was really nervous when CAA threw at me, listen, maybe not the podcast, maybe stand-up comedy. I was like, listen, I have never been on stage in my whole life. The only time I was on stage was getting my diploma to go to nursing, and that was the only time, and I was about to pee myself on that stage. And so putting me there to make people laugh for almost an hour is going to drive me nuts. They're like, listen, you are hilarious. You have millions of audience. If they love you online, they will love you on stage. And I was like, I cannot prove this because I have never done anything like this. And so again, I give it a shot, and I was like, listen, I will give it a shot. I will go on stage for 5 minutes, see how people react. If I bomb, that's the last of you guys who are going to see me. And unfortunately, it went so well. People love it. And they're like, listen, we want you back. We want more. We want this. And just from there, it took off.
And what's your memory of the first show or like of any kind you did?
Oh my God. My only memory of my first ever show was that 15 minutes before I go on stage, I peed at least 30 times. I don't know where the water was coming from, but I know I was so nervous and I was thinking about my plan B, C, D if I bomb this. That's my first memory.
That was Brea or where?
That was Brea Improv.
Okay, and that's where you've honed a lot of your material? Or
I think so. I think Brea is my home for my comedy because I have done so much show in Brea and the people there just welcome me, and the people in Brea or around the county in Orange County just loves to see me there.
Wow.
I will say though, you know, when we took that CAA meeting, it was early 2024. He did 5 minutes in Brea and I think February 2024. And we really only did about 15 comedy clubs in between then and September 18th when we went on a full-blown theater tour. And 4 of those shows were Netflix is a Joke, Nashville Comedy Festival, San Francisco at the Palace of Fine Arts, and a show in San Diego, all theaters as well, within that 15 test shows. So the growth has just been explosive, exponential, unlike any other comic, I would say, because, you know, a lot of comics are in the comedy clubs for years before moving to theaters. And I mean, I think we did 15 shows and then we went on a full-blown theater tour.
It's insane.
Yeah, it was nuts.
So can you talk more about the process of, like you said, you've never been on stage before, honing that act and figuring out how to go from being a digital creator to a stand-up, a live performer? Like, how did you craft that act?
I think it's a lot of practice at home that I did practice in front of her, which when I did my first piece of my 5-minute comedy, she's like, this is not funny. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it's not funny and I don't know what to do. And so it's a lot of practicing. I was practicing in front of my wife every single night, trying to see if I can make her laugh for 5 minutes. And I just keep doing it and I keep doing it. And I watch other stand-up comedians at home on Netflix and Prime, everywhere, seeing how they move, their body language, how they interact with people, how they do things traditionally. And then I was like, listen, this is very traditional for me because I'm very expressive. And so I was like, listen, I think I can mix up the traditional and my expressive self and put them into a show that is me, that people will recognize and will say, this is exactly what we're paying for.
I mean, I know there's audience participation, but how did you get to, like, you said it was like a 2-hour show, right? It's like, that's a lot of material.
Well,
either way.
There's a lot of crowd work, and then we also do a switch mid-show. So he comes out as Nurse John, and he does about 50 minutes as Nurse John, and then he switches and comes out as Nurse Pam as well. And that's about 40 to 50 minutes. So, and then we have a 15-minute opener. So I really think it's a big mix of being able to do the Nurse John persona and then also the Nurse Pam persona, right? Because those personas are so important. One, they're digitally known amongst his audience, and then 2, for the audience to be able to get those personas on the stage, they really freak out when the Nurse Pam character comes out. They're like, oh my God, she's here in real life.
Exactly. I have these personas that I've built for almost 4 or 5 years and being in social media, and they just know exactly who they are and they have related themselves to this persona.
It's different kinds of types of people you'll encounter.
Exactly.
In healthcare.
Yes.
Okay. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. And so what was the first show you did that you felt like, whoa, like the reaction was crazy?
I think that's when I did my first ever set alone for 45 minutes. It's also in Brea, California. And that time I have built a whole set of comedy and stories that I was praying it's going to be funny, because I have I've tried it in so many different crowds, and trying it for the first time in a crowd that I've performed before, but for 5 minutes. And then for 45 minutes, I was able to keep them laughing every single minute. Made me feel like, okay, I think we got the stand-up comedy in us. So I was like, you know what? I love this.
And then he was addicted and wanted to book a show every day.
What are the pitfalls of this kind of trajectory? Because the stories I mainly hear about creators going into this and accelerating like this is like a lot of them can't stick the landing. Like they don't have the material, they haven't figured it out. How do you talk about that and how you navigate that to build something kind of sustainable?
I think it's hours of writing and hours of dedication. I mean, I've never met someone who works harder than John. And I think it's, again, not losing that digital aspect, right? I think that You can't start going on stage and start doing stand-up comedy and then just decide, hey, I'm going to ditch my digital online presence. I think he kept making those viral videos, kept doing the sketch comedy online. And something special about John is he's not just a stand-up comedian. I mean, he's a real theater act in a way. I mean, when you come to the show again has his different personas. He's coming out, he's singing several times during the show. There's a lot of really fun elements. And I think, just being able to take that sketch comedy online and put it on the stage. And he's so creative. Every show, there's something different. Every show, his songs are changing. And I think bringing those different elements really helps you be able to stick that landing and not losing sight of, again, who you are. And also that, digital presence that you have online and not, abandoning those fans in that capacity.
How did you test the demand for a live show? Because it's one thing to get someone to like your videos and another entirely to get someone to come to a live show.
Yeah, I mean, again, we did the 5 minutes on stage in Brea. The crowd went insane and we set up those few test shows and they sold out in 2 minutes, and we're like, okay, there's demand here, and I hate to say it was easy because it wasn't. There was so much work, but John made it easy by having such an amazing connection to the fans. And I mean, we're selling out quicker than most people, and we're really grateful for that.
But how do you know you can kind of draw a broader conclusion about a tour? Because it's like, maybe it's just this like niche, like maybe Brea just loves Nurse John, and
Totally.
How do you know?
I mean, you don't know, right? I think it was a risk, right? We didn't know, right? We were testing the markets. Again, we set up those 15 test shows all across the country to kind of see like, okay, what markets are strong. And we looked at the analytics on the back end, and CAA was like, hey, based on touring stats, based on your stats online and the few test shows we did, we really think that, we have strong data here to set up a tour. And we did, and it sold out so quickly. We added second shows in pretty much every single market, went from a 50 city tour to 120 plus shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you had just extended this tour, but you sold 200,000 tickets in 18 months. Like, again, like what was there like one specific moment in time where like an inflection point where you're just like, whoa, like, because this is just extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it was after that first week when, we announced, and then we had the pre-sale, and he pretty much sold everything out in the first week. And again, these were 1,200 to 1,500 seat theaters. And they were like, yeah, we have to roll into second shows right away. I mean, they were trying to roll into third shows on some days. I'm like, guys, he's going to have to sleep, but I think it was that moment that they were like, we're playing venues that are too small for us, actually, which was crazy because that was his first tour ever. So to do a theater tour, 1,200 to 1,500 seats, and realize, hey, these are actually too small of venues for someone who's been on stage maybe 20 times was pretty crazy. And so I think this whole journey it's very interesting to speak to because it's not traditional in any way at all, right? It didn't follow the normal pacing, normal pathway, normal playbook of any other stand-up comedian or digital to stand-up pipeline. It really is just an anomaly.
Anomaly, yeah.
I can't talk. Yeah, it really is just a very special situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I just think it really speaks to his greatness.
Can you talk about the touring lifestyle? We talked a little bit about this off mic, but like, I'm curious.
Yes.
It involved like going around in a van, and you've got like a few people, including you, Logan, like who came along for the ride. But what was that first tour? Kind of, what was the vibe on that first tour?
Oh my God. I think the first tour was a dream. I love road trips. Road trips are one of the things that I love to do, to unwind, to just explore nature. And I'm such an outdoorsy guy. And so I think the tour lifestyle that we also did not know, because we were figuring out every single day, do we rent like a Honda Civic? Oh no, we are too small for a Honda Civic. Maybe we need like a minivan. Oh no, the minivan is too big. Maybe we should have a Suburban. And so it was such a dream because I was able to be with a very few people who made every single trips memorable in such a way that it didn't feel like work. It felt like I was with a bunch of my friends and we are road tripping and making people laugh, and then the next morning we are driving to the next city and exploring it, places to places, and even places that I would never visit in my life. Or would never thought about visiting.
And I think most people who go on tour know this. Tour life is not real life. You know, you're on the road, you're chasing a high that you're getting every night. You're going to different cities, you're meeting new people. You get to see and experience things that you just don't in real life. And so I think, you know, the first tour, we just had so much fun. Like John said, it was a road trip. We were doing karaoke in the car. We were making people laugh, getting to do the VIP and getting to see this new world of ours unfold in front of our eyes, and getting to learn those lessons along the way. Because again, it was both of our first tour, and you know, we got to see so many things and learn so many things. And I think now we could do all of this with our eyes closed. And I look back and I think, how did we do this? I mean, really, how did we do it? Because we had no idea what we were doing, but now we do.
It was a shot in the dark.
Yeah, it was.
What was like the most obscure market you were shocked to find that you could sell out? Like you played like Manila, Warsaw. There's just like all these all these markets all over the world. It's just wild.
I think my biggest shock right now, I mean, I'm still shocked at every single market that I'm selling out, but Europe itself and Australia, because I didn't know that my community expands more than North America. And North America, I mean Canada and America. But then when we sold out 28 shows in Australia and now 16 shows in Europe, made me think so much of how did this even happen? It's like, how did someone from Brussels or Finland knew me, and there's 3,000 people who bought the ticket in under 10 minutes.
I mean, yeah, the Helsinki show really did go in an hour on Friday. It was insane. And, you know, over the summer, we played the Royal Albert Hall twice. I think it was
just like supposedly like a very high difficulty to get into, and there's a whole process.
Apparently there's a whole process. You have to be approved by the whole board. It takes comedians 3 years to get in, and you know, within his first year of touring, they're like, yeah, bring him. And we got in and we sold out the first show 3,200 seats, and then boom, rolled into a second show, sold out 5,200 seats, and we went to London, and our tour manager was out during that time, so I actually played the part of the tour manager. I was side stage and called the whole show and did all of the sound cues. And again, looking back, it's like, how did we do that? We don't know.
We've worn many hats in figuring out this tour by ourselves.
And you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think, you know, again, a lot of people, they're starting small and they're building up, and you know, they're building these teams around them and all of this. And we did kind of get thrown into the wolves, but I think we learned so much, and now we're in this place where we're like, you know, there's nothing we can't do, right? Me going on the road with him, I wanted to learn everything from how does the sound work? How does, you know, the video team work? What is the runner exactly doing? What is every single person in every pocket of touring doing? And I wanted to know everything. That way I could, you know, continue to help build this successful tour alongside him. And I think we just learned so many lessons along the way, and we're still learning every single day. But I mean, it's really crazy to see the growth that, you know, the tour has had.
Is there much of an adjustment going from one international market to the other? Like you say, it's like there's a universality at the core of what you do, but at the same time, I just can't imagine going all over the world to all these different places without making any adjustments or anything to the act. Like, what is it like? Right.
I'm very, very thoughtful. I would say whenever I go to different places, even just here in North America, if I go to a city, I do my research on what the city is like, what is the famous sports in that city, what is their favorite food,
what is the culture like,
exactly.
How do they think, what is important to them? Yeah,
exactly. Bringing in something that makes them feel like I've learned their city, so they can feel more related to me. And so it is hard, but for me it is easy now because I'm able to, you know, mix in that knowledge of each city, each country, each international places, and bring in that hey, he studied and learned our culture, our favorite food, our sports, just so that he can blend in and feel like he's one of us.
Right.
And in every city, too, we try to do things like take pizzas to the different hospitals and really learn what hospitals are the top hospitals, what hospitals people like to make fun of. And he loves to throw that in there as well, and just make them know that, you know, he's done his research. He knows about their city, and, you know, that he's giving back to their city in some capacity as well. And I think they love that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the routing process and building a tour?
Yeah. I mean, listen, when we did the first tour, the first leg of the short staff tour, it was really the agents who were passing everything to us. And it's not that we didn't know what we were looking at, but I think we were kind of like, okay, we're just going to go with this, right? Because again, we didn't really know what we were doing. And it was great. It worked out great. And I think now that we know and we've been out on the road and we're like, okay, how long does it take to get from this city to this city? Does it make sense to go to this city in the winter, right? Or what is this like? And I think now we know, and you know, with the new tours that we're taking on Europe, right, we're sitting down and we're looking, okay, from this city to this city, doesn't make sense. Can we add a second show here without him being exhausted because we have to train in the morning? You know what I mean? And I think when it comes to routing, you really do have to sit down and really look at city to city. When are you playing these shows? What time of year are you playing these shows? You know, and I think for us, we're trying to be a lot smarter about the routing and really looking at how do we make this sustainable by knowing what cities, you know, we should be going to and from, and when can John rest, and you know, what is the best mode of transportation, right? Like what John was saying in the beginning, it was like we were flying in and going SUV to SUV. Then sometimes we were flying between each city, and kind of just taking a step back and deciding like, how do we make this the easiest routing possible for the crew to not get exhausted?
Yeah, it's the most important at the end of the day. Just keeping everybody's sanity, I guess. To the extent you can. I guess, how do you protect the live experience as you get bigger? Like, I feel like that's particularly a problem at, like, if you're get to the arena level, but I don't know if that's something you've thought about.
We actually just released last night our first ever arena, which is at the Wembley in London, which to me is mind-blowing. And I think, to answer your question, I have told Logan, my manager, and my agents is that I want it to be intimate. I don't want it to be too much where I don't feel the people in the room anymore. It's like, as much as I want to play these big places, which at some point we will, but right now I want to work on myself, on how I can engage every single person sitting in that room to make them feel like they still are relating to me, just like how they relate to me in social media. And so I protect that by making sure that we take it slow, because things can go really from 0 to 100 really quick in this industry. And I think that's what happened to us. But again, I think we've learned from mistakes and we've grown, and we now know what to do to make sure that we don't just, you know, go in full speed and crash after.
Obviously, everything you've done has been a success, but like, was there one or two failures you felt, or are there lessons you took from specific failures along the way and transitioning into this live space?
Absolutely. I think it's overstretching myself into a lot of these shows, because again, what Logan was talking about, adrenaline, is that when you are on the road, the adrenaline is so high that you just keep wanting to do it every single night, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows. But then you get to the 6th show on the 6th night and you're like, whoa, I think I'm gonna need some rest, and maybe we should like pause a little bit. And so that's I think one thing I have learned is that overstretching yourself and really setting boundaries in physically, mentally, and emotionally, and just professionally, gives you the ability to make sure that, again, you don't get a crash. Because it's something that I want to keep doing for a very long time, because I am impacting people in such a positive way. And again, as what happened to me as a nurse where I burnt out. I don't want that to happen to me as a stand-up comedian where I burnt out. So I have learned to not do that to my new job, my new profession, my new love. And so I want to make sure that I keep my sanity from all those boundaries.
I mean, I think it goes back into the routing as well, right? Like with Europe last week, you know, we get to 80% sold on everything. And it's, you know, let's roll into second shows. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's look at these second shows, right? Does it make sense to do 2 shows here if you have to wake up and train for 8 hours, you know, and just looking at, hey, I know you want to give everything you have to these fans, but you're also a person. So let's take a step back and evaluate, does it make sense to add here? Does it make sense to, you know, go a week early and play shows in other cities, right? Or is this tour enough? And then we'll go back to those markets later, right? And I think that all ties into just making sure that the routing is good, and if we're taking second shows or how much we're taking on, right? And then in the downtime too, if, you know, people are like, hey, come in and film, you know, an audition for this cameo, right? Or hey, let's start working on the book, or let's start doing these things of, hey, what can we really take on? That way you can maintain that, you know, strength that you have right now to stay on the road and not saying yes to just everything.
Mm-hmm. You announced that European legs exclusively with me, so thank you.
Oh my God, yes.
But did you get a break before that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
A good amount of break, and I'm taking that break to spend time with my family and to really just give also the stand-up comedy space for myself some breathing time, because what I don't want to do is people... Wait, is he on tour every single month?
I forgot for a second. Yeah, so that kicks off in April. When was your last tour for before this?
My tour...
wrapped up to November 15th.
November 15th.
So you got to get good. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, so we're breaking December through March, and then we'll be back on the road in Europe in April.
And so... I guess, what are you most proud of? Is there anything specific about this journey that...
Yes, I think really how I've grown as a person, as a stand-up comedian, and just, you know, the amount of positive experiences and impact I have made to people around the world. And that is something that I'm really, really proud of, because I was still looking for the nursing in this space because I love my profession as a nurse. But then I realized that, you know, stand-up comedy is actually also nursing, because I am nursing those nurses who need someone to nurse them.
You're the Patch Adams of the nurse world.
Exactly. And so they can keep nursing people in their community by making them feel happy, related to, and that they are worthy.
Yeah. And so what does the end game look like for you? You mentioned like a book. Have you explored opportunities in film and TV? I imagine there's something like that. Like what is it? What is the breadth of things you envision right now?
I think, you know, for us, we're looking to build a multi-platform business, but I think it all comes down to timing, right? So we're on the road a lot. So making sure that, you know, when those things come up, it makes sense. But yeah, we're thinking about, you know, a book on the horizon and some TV opportunities as well that we're super excited about.
Anything to add or plug before we get out of here?
I just want to say thank you to all my fans in my community who have supported me along the way from the beginning of this to now and for the future. Really, this means a lot to me, and I won't be where I am today if it wasn't for the people who have been there from day one.
Nurse John, Logan Watkins, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really fun to talk to you.